Toguz korgool code. General provisions. Based on results of the lot drawing, players should occupy corresponding sides. Before the game starts, there should be a board, a clock, and a form to make records on parts of the game. Before the game starts, the players check the initial position and shake hands to demonstrate their rights to begin the game. After part of the game is over, the players write down the results of the part into the form for records, sign the form, and shake hands. If the players do not shake hands, the referee should guarantee that they shake hands. Move. A move implies repositioning of korgools, counterclockwise from any hole located at a player's side, beginning from the same hole. After the ninth hole at the player's side, the first hole of the opponent follows, then the second hole, etc. If there is one korgool in a hole and it's used to make a move, the hole remains empty and the korgool is put in the next hole. If the last korgool gets into one of the holes owned by the opponent, and if the number of korgools in that hole is even, the move should be considered as effective, and the player should take all korgools from this hole into his kazan. If the last korgool gets into one of the holes owned by the opponent, and if the number of korgools in that hole is uneven, except for the toguz rule, and if the last korgool gets into one of the holes at the player's side, then regardless of the number of korgools, none of the players capture those korgools. A move should be considered as complete when the opponent puts the last korgool into a hole or he puts korgools into kazan and turns the clock. A move should be made using one hand only. The exception is by when there are over 12 korgools in a hole. The other hand can be used as a secondary hand. If this is the case, all korgools can be taken with the hand used to make a move, and about half of korgools should be put into the other hand. When no korgools are left in the hand that makes moves, all remaining korgools should be put into the hand and finish the move. If a move is made using two hands, the player before making the move should pay attention of the opponent to the number of korgools in the hole and show the hole where the last korgool should get in. A move should be considered as complete if a player puts the korgools he keeps in his hand into the next hole. A move can be made only after the opponent makes his move and turns the clock. Toguz. If the last korgool of a player gets into his opponent's hole with two korgools, then these three korgools should be captured by the player into his kazan, and this hole is declared as toguz. This way the player wins the hole of his opponent, and all korgools which later get into the toguz hole he puts into his kazan and marks it as toguz. All korgools which get into the toguz should be captured by the owner of the toguz and put into his kazan. Oz holes or a hole number 9 cannot become toguz holes. A player cannot change a toguz during a game part. Each player can declare a toguz only once during a game. If a player declares a hole as a toguz, the other player has no right to declare the same hole or the hole of the same number as toguz. A player cannot refuse from a toguz. A toguz should be marked with special sign. In a game record, a toguz is marked as X symbol. End of game part. A game part should be considered as complete if one of the players has 82 or more korgools in his kazan. If a player gets 82 korgools or more in the game part is stopped, and the opponent should count korgools he has in his kazan. A game part can have the following score: 1, 82 versus 0, 60. A game part should be considered as complete if an opponent declares his defeat. The score should be recorded in the game protocol and the form of recording of game parts. If korgools are counted, their number as of the moment of defeat declaration should be noted in the protocol and in the form. A game part should be considered as complete if a player has no korgools at his side. In such a case, korgools in his kazans are counted. If the player has fewer than 81 korgools, he loses the game part. If there are 81 korgools in his kazan, then the game is a draw. If there are over 81 korgools, the player wins. A game part should be considered a draw if both players have 81 korgools in each of their kazans. A game part should be considered a draw if both players agree it is a draw. A game part should be considered a draw if Chulimov's draw position, which is repetition of a position in 76 moves, occurs on the board. A game part should be considered a draw if both of the players run out at the time the flag falls and there are 81 or fewer korgools in their kazans. A game part should be considered as complete if one player is late for half of the control plus 30 seconds noted with the control clock. The player who is late loses, unless otherwise is stated in the provision of competitions. A game part should be considered as complete if one of the players has the flag fallen. Players' errors. If during a game part no errors are revealed and game part result is recorded into the protocol and signatures are put into the game part should not be replayed. If an improper move is made or a position is wrong or goes scattered, the position preceding the error should be recovered and the game part should continue. If while making a move player unintentionally scattered korgools, he should recover the position using his own time and then turn the clock. Toguz korgool clock. Toguz korgool clock is the clock with two dices interrelated in such way that only one part dice of the clock can work at the moment. Flag falling means that the player runs out of the time. A referee should put the clock to the right from the player using the black side. The clock of the white side player starts as it required by the rules. Then each player after he makes a move should stop his clock and the opponent starts his clock. Clock readings are indisputable. Only if clock falls are evident a player should apply to the referee. If any faults are revealed, the referee should replace the clock. Application about clock falls should be made before the flag falling. If while making a move the flag falls, a player should be allowed to complete the move. If the move is effective, korgool should be removed from the board and put into the kazan. If the clock is replaced, the referee should establish the precise time used by each player. If there is evidence that only one part of the clock fails, the referee should adjust only readings of this part of the clock. Otherwise, reading of both parts of the clock should be adjusted. Common time should be divided into two and distributed evenly between players. If when the time is adjusted, one player has less than 5 minutes left, the referee should adjust his time to 5 minutes and the same time amount to his opponent. Consent for a draw or recognition of defeat are considered valid despite the flag falling. If both flags fall, korgools of both players in kazans should be counted. It's not allowed to support the clock using hands or keep the button of the clock pressed. A player can stop both parts of the clock only if the flag falls. Players are not allowed to change the reading of the clock. When necessary, the referee should be invited to perform this operation. Flag falling should be noted by either the players of playing a game part or the referee. On request of the player, the referee should stop the clock. If a game part begins without using the clock and the players or referee decide to use the clock due to certain reasons, the same time period should be established for both players. In other words, time of beginning the game part should be deducted from the actual time and then divided into two. The readings obtained should be established for both players. Time period should not be less than 25 minutes. A player should push the button of the clock using the hand that he makes a move with. Recording game parts. Each player should make records of all moves of both players, move after move, pursuant to rules of record making in toguz korgool. The form for records is a property of competition organizers. Form for records should always be located in full view of the referee. Records on a game part should be made till the part is over. Record making can be stopped only if a player has less than 5 minutes left till the control time. Referees are allowed to rewrite their own records and records of players only when a game part is over. Any player or representative of players can apply to the referee to request records of the game. The referee has to provide forms with records of game parts or copies of these records. If a form is lost or damaged, a player or representative who takes the form to make a copy should bear full responsibility for the loss or damage and can be punished, even excluded from the competition. Referees are recommended to display separate game parts after those parts are over. Players who do not make records about a game part, or if they do not make records till the part ends, should be given a warning. Consideration of game results. Winner of a game part gets 1 score. The player who loses gets 0 score. If a game part is a draw, both players get 0.5 scores. When games, tournaments, and competitions using the rotation systems are held where provision on competition prescribes counting on korgools, it is necessary to make records into the protocol not only on the scores but also on the number of korgools captured by the player who loses the game part. Tie. A player may offer a tie after a step before pressing the clock. A player has the right to offer a tie only 3 times. If he offers a tie for more than 3 times, the player determines his loss and addresses to referee with a request to record his loss. Each offer of a tie, both players must record in the score by equal symbol. A player, in case of Chilemo's tie position, may require from referees to state the game ended in a tie. If both players participate in ending the game in a tie, referee has the right to accept the score. Procedure of competitions holding and their types. Competitions are held among singles and teams. Competition of teams is held until 2 loses or privately by Swiss rules. Competition of singles is held by special computer program. Each player is given 1 hour for thinking over, total 2 hours. Teams have the right to participate in competition only in special uniforms of the same color approved by the federation. Sitting at boards is done on the beginning of the game. Sportsmen sitting in the first board will decide by drawing who will play which color. Player at the first board will sit with one color, and player at the second board will sit opposite with another color. After sitting at the boards, there will be no possibility to replace the main player for additional sportsmen. Determination of winners. Rules for determination of winners in competitions of singles. According to Swiss procedure: score, Buchholz coefficient, results of single game, Knoth coefficient, Bergen coefficient. On team score, according to Olympic procedure, in case if both teams will have equal score, considered will be the number of collected korgools in all those games. In case of equal results, the result of first board will be taken into account. If they have equal results, boards starting from the second and following are considered. If all indicators are equal, additional game is held with certain time of game playing. Application. Example of application: Toguz korgool, Kyrgyz Republic, attention to group of chief referees. For participation in Toguz korgool's games in World Games of Nomads in picked team. Application. Number, name, surname, patronymic in full, sport degree, year of birth, name, surname, patronymic of coach in full, physician admittance. Admitted 2 person, physician, and manager. Men are prohibited to participate in competitions against women. A group is allowed 2 games if the group comprises at least 50% of players. Referee and group of referees. Chief referee, chief secretary, and group of referees are approved by an organization that has undertaken the function of games management. Chief referee, chief secretary, referees, and secretaries are approved for all competitions. Based on the level of competition, 1 referee is assigned to boards starting from 1 to 6. Number of secretaries must not exceed 9. The group of referees must comprise at least 3 persons. During competition, a referee must strictly follow the code of 9 korgools and the procedure of competitions holding. Every referee must be just, must care for interest of the competition. A referee must control the order and create convenient conditions for players. A referee must follow the control clock, and in case of the players will play without a clock, 50 minutes before the game end, he must provide each player at least 25 minutes. If a player did not press the clock, referee may leave that unattended, but has the right to take measures on that. During holding of games, it is strictly prohibited to use forms of previously held games, drawing of diagrams, use of different electronic devices, mobile phones. It is also prohibited to turn on mobile phones. They must be turned off. Referees must control compliance with these requirements. Falls are given if the below rules are violated. A player that gained 3 falls loses 1 point. A player that gains 4 falls is excluded from participation in games. During the game, it is strictly prohibited to talk to other players, coaches, representatives of group, supporters. Talk can be held only in the presence of referee or representatives of opponents. Only players and referee must be in the game room. All the others are not admitted. For incomplete record of the game scoring. For manifestation of disrespect to referees. For resistance in the course of competition. According to approved regulations, referees shall be entitled to start clock on the white side. Shall the player not appear at the game for the half-time allocated to one player plus 30 seconds, referee records 0 score to such player or a loss. Referees who were not referee in a fair manner should be suspended from refereeing. Discussion of official rules of competition. Official rules of competition are discussed by a special commission of referees of toguz korgool Federation.